joining us here today on TV 99 North Mississippi, From the Heart, where we tell stories of life because life is interesting. Today I have with me Mr. Terrance Dye. Thank you.
Yes, hello.
I'm glad you joined me today.
It's good to be here.
Good. On this wondrous weathery day.
It's a little rainy, but there's still a lot of sunshine in here.
Oh, it is. So, we want to hear about your books and where you are now, but let's go back just a little bit and find out where you come from.
Well,
So,
yeah.
who are your folks?
My mom's name is Yvonne Dye. My dad's name is Terry Pratt. I come from New Albany, Mississippi. Most of the time when I go places, they can find it hard to believe because of the way I dress. But
Right.
that's gotten me a lot of places though, because people be like, "Are you from New Albany? They dress like that." So it's pretty cool to see people from other places to still know where this actually little town is. So.
I did see some of your interview that you did with TV 99 a few years ago, and you were talking about the way you dress. Tell us that story for those that didn't hear it.
Well, yeah, it started when I was like 13. My mom, you just have to know my mom is a very strict mom, who I'm appreciative of today. When I was growing up, I told her one day I just wanted to learn how to dress up. And she said, well, we're going to have a meeting when I get in from work. And so she came in from work and she told me that I would never get any more Game Boys or any of the games that were popular back then. And I would only get clothes and I had to have a lesson like every day. And so when I got in from school, I'd do my homework, play with my friends, and we would start. It'd be how to iron a white dress shirt or how to crease pants, and that just continued throughout my life, and I became a very fashionable young man very early in my life. And that's how most people remember me, believe it or not, the guy that dresses nice. But it's cool, it's a cool thing, and to see how far that has gotten me in my career and in my life has been a blessing. To be able to work for some of the retailers that I have, especially coming from a small town. I've worked Nordstrom's, DXL, Brooks Brothers, I worked Johnson & Murphy, just a lot of high end. And it really helped me be more well-rounded with my fashion, and to be able to inspire other people, I think was my calling in fashion. In the beginning, I thought it was just fun and everyone likes to see you dress up, but the older I've gotten, I just see how it motivates people and make them want to have their own individuality, and people be like, I can't wear that, but I like it. So it's cool to see people, want to step outside the box, and then they see me a lot of times and it gives them that confidence to want to step outside the box. And so, I use my writing and my fashion as both motivators and to inspire people.
You grew up here in New Albany. Did you graduate?
I moved from New Albany in '92. Me and my mom, we moved to Boonville. I went to school there, graduated from Boonville High. So I kind of have a two-tie home kind of thing. When I do over the years, all the papers I've done, whether I'm in Boonville, it's like Boonville native, and then when I'm New Albany, it's New Albany native. So just to let people know this is my home, but both are my homes. So.
Right. Okay. So tell us what happened after high school.
After high school, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. It was kind of one of those just floating in the wind kind of situations. Went off to college, was a journalism major. Wanted to write, but the classes were not my type of writing. I'm more of a poet, and it was more of constructed form. Didn't like it. So one of my friends was like, why not fashion? That changed everything. Got into fashion and started doing a lot of fashion shows and a lot of modeling, and it just kind of took off from there. And then I had a friend that was called to preach right around the same time, and he told me we was gonna have to go our separate ways for a while, but God had something special for me. And he's like, I think you know what it is. And one day I just went up to my room. I was like, God, this is what you want me to do. I knew it was the writing and gift, and I got my answer, and from that moment, my life changed. The next day, I came to New Albany, Mississippi from Boonville. I came to the New Albany paper. Had to have been like 2002. Went in, not a soul was in there, but one person, Mr. Brinkley. And he said, can I help you? I was like, man, I don't know why I'm here. I was led here. He was like, okay, do you write? I told him I was a poet, and I've been writing all my life, but something told me to come here. So he gave me like 10 different poetry sites to start out with. And I sent all these different poems off, and each week I was getting award after award. And I mean, within a matter of a year, the binder was so full. And that's when the newspaper started really recognizing what I was doing. And
Right.
I started going around. I've done, just in Northeast Mississippi alone, over 50 to 70 paper interviews, multiple times, Ripley, New Albany, Tupelo, Boonville. So it's been an amazing 15-year journey. This year makes my 15th year of pursuing this, and 4 self-published books, and a career later, I'm still at it.
So what was the, going back to the modeling for just a minute, what was the most standout memory for you on that?
The most standout memory, that's a good question. It would have to have been my first fashion show
was
at
that?
Northeast.
At Northeast?
We had, for our final semester, like you had to do like this extravagant fashion show, that was your grade. And I hit the stage and they was like, you got it. Like whatever it is, you have it. And that moment right there really gave me the passion to really start pursuing it. And just to see how far I could go and still shoot to this day.
Do you?
Yeah.
Do you shoot internationally or just in the United States?
Just in the United States. I'm hoping one of these days somebody will pick up one of my pictures and be like, hey, that guy.
Yeah.
But I've been a freelancer all this time. I see how some of the agencies work, and some of it is kind of cliquish, some of it is kind of just trying to get in your pocket. But if I feel good just when photographers see my work and they reach out and was like, hey man, I want to shoot you. I'm gonna love your look, your sense of style, and most importantly, your personality. People think that just because I do all these things, even though it's kind of based off looks, I would like for people to remember just how cool of a personality I have as well. You know?
Yeah.
So,
You want to be remembered for a little more than? Yeah.
just being fashionable.
Yeah. So tell us about your first book.
My very first book, which is Royalty, The Prince and the Princess, 2007, was the very first one. This book meant a lot to me because, for one, of course, it's my first one.
Right.
And out of all the years up until this book, it had been 5 years since I had started. I was basically making little paperback books. Me and my mom selling them out of McDonald's here where I worked growing up, and my family worked, and people were coming in getting books for $3, and it was pretty much all the poetry from the award type one.
Right.
And so I was like, okay, I'm on to something here. And then I just collaboed all of them together. Actually, before that, I actually went on WTVA with one of them little books. Twice, actually.
Nice, yeah.
And so that's when I knew people were like, hey man, how'd you go on TV with that little book? But I knew it was a higher calling behind it all. I knew that my success wasn't coming, it wasn't fast, but the recognition from the right people was fast.
Right.
I think growing up, knowing that God had told me, yeah, you're going to make it. And to see where I'm at, I've made it. You know, it might have not been on the level of what I thought 15 years ago.
Right.
But just to be able to do some of the things I've done, to have a book and to go on the news with those books, and then turn it into actually my first book was a very memorable moment for me.
That's cool. What was your first poem?
My first poem, actually, when I was in the 5th grade, it was a young lady I liked. People ask, how did I get started?
Right.
This is how I got started. My aunt, who was in college at the time, had a literature book. Had a bunch of poems in it. Now this story, many people do not know. I wrote one of the poems down, copied it, gave it to her. She loved it. I said, I can do that.
Yeah.
So I started like getting formats from just different literature books, but using my own words, and then it just grew and grew. So my first poem would have had to have been a love poem I copied for somebody.
Oh, that's
Gave it
such
to
a
them.
sweet story.
But that's how I got started.
That is a sweet story. So you went from this book, what was your next one?
The next book was Chronicles of Love, which is one of my favorite covers. It has the flower and a lot of the different meanings on them: love, home, hope, family. It meant a lot because it's my first, I feel like, big book.
Right.
Where I had a chance to collaborate everything I had done in the past that people that didn't read or didn't know about. And this was the first book I actually had a Barnes & Noble's book signing with at Ole Miss.
Wow.
2008 actually. And I was actually in the paper there, the school paper, when the McCain and Obama did the big old debate there.
Right.
And my article was in that one. So that was a memorable
Well,
kind of
yeah.
moment right there too. So it's funny how every book has its own story of success.
Right.
When people ask about, you know, man, how you still going? Because I've seen the growth. I've been able to come out with, within a matter of 2007, 2008, you know, 2 books right back to back. And that was a good momentum builder for me. And having my family come to Barnes & Nobles on the campus of Ole Miss, knowing the history, knowing me as a writer, what that meant to me and my family was a very big moment.
That's good. What was your next book?
The next one was titled The Book of Relationships and Heartbreak. And this was a book about pretty much going through hurt as a man. Like you always hear like the female versions of what women go through. I wanted to write a book talking about how men feel when we go through something, because a lot of times we don't get the credit for having the feelings like a lot of women do. But men hurt actually a little more worse because of the pride and ego factor. It's just the way it is.
Because you bottle it up, you don't let it loose.
Right. So I wanted to write something that guys could read or females could read that would really open up that emotion and let them know that it's okay to hurt, it's okay to go through heartache and pain. It's just life.
Right.
So this was book 3.
Okay. And then the other one?
And then the one that I've been on a tour with the last few years is My Conversation with God. I started here at home, New Albany, Mississippi, summer 2016. My first signing was here in New Albany at the old movie theater, which was amazing. I had over 50 books sold that day. WTVA came out, did a small little preview. My children got to be on TV with me, my boys, and that was cool because they got to school and everybody was like, hey man, I saw you on TV. So that was a cool moment just for being a hometown experience.
Right.
And then we moved from there to Barnes & Nobles in Tupelo. We did the noon show where I think it was 10 years, actually almost to the day, from the last time I had been on there. And so that was cool. Like I never thought in a million years I'd be coming back with like a book deal and a hardback book. And so
from
it
your
was
little
cool.
book.
For my little book.
For
Yeah,
your little book.
it was cool.
Yeah. So what's this one about?
My Conversation with God is actually, it was a journal. When I first started writing, it was kind of like one of those situations where people were like, no, you just need to get a factory job. The fashion is not really here.
Right.
Wasn't a lot of encouragement when I first started. So I kept a journal because God had told me what I was going to do. So it was almost like your opinion doesn't matter to an extent. And so I just wrote talking to God for years. This book was 10 years worth of journaling, actually. And I left it home one year, coming home for the holidays, and my mom read it, and she was like, you know, that book deal that you've always talked about, you want it? She was like, this is it. I was like, nah, it's a lot of personal stuff, a lot of conversations. She was like, that's gonna change a lot of people's lives. So that gave me like that, okay, let's just try it. And I mean, 1.5 years later, it's been going strong. So it's been cool to see how many people the book have touched and the places that I've been able to go. Not just with my conversation with God, but with all of them, to see the plateau in which they've been able to make it to. Actually, the first 3 books, I went on Dr. Bobby Jones, BET. I thought that was just it for me as a writer, to sit down and have an interview with Dr. Bobby Jones, not only as I'm not a singer.
Right.
So that was the cool thing. I was one of the first writers to go on the show and do a full interview with the first 3 books. And then this book, My Conversation with God, the tour, led me all the way to WSM, 650 AM, or Grand Ole Opry Radio.
The Grand Ole Opry.
Which was like a phenomenal experience. And I got to do the noon show with Devin O'Day.
Wow.
It was an amazing experience. She actually had me read one of the pieces they had picked out, and it was called Remember Me. And I read it over the air, and it was a gentleman in the window of the radio station just watching. And you know, this is my big moment.
Right.
But it's amazing how God places you in positions where it's really not your moment. It was for someone else.
Right.
After I read the poem Remember Me, which is based on how I want to be remembered if something happens to me. It wasn't anything writing about, oh, I hope to die or anything like that.
Right.
It was a legacy of how I wanted to be remembered. And I think we all think of that from time to time.
Right.
And I was like, out of all the poems, it was that one, which it struck me, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I read it, and we went to a commercial break. And the guy in the window was just like bawling. He was crying. And so they was like, I think you should go out and talk to him.
Right.
So I went out and introduced myself, and he just gave me a hug. He was like, hey man, that poem, it really changed a lot for me. And he was like, I was thinking of committing suicide.
Oh my.
And you let me know in that poem that there's so much more I want people to remember me by. And I laughed. And he just looked like, I was like, I thought this was about me today.
Yeah.
You're the reason I'm here.
Right.
So that mindset has been a thing that has gotten me into a lot of places. Trying to be as humble as moving forward as possible and never forgetting where I come from.
Right. That's awesome.
Thank you.
That is very awesome. So tell us what you're doing at home today.
Well, it's actually cool to be here today. February the 1st, I have a very exciting month coming up. My conversation with God, doing a book signing at Logos Christian Bookstore in Green Hills, Nashville.
Nice.
To be able to have signed actually at the Barnes & Noble's Vanderbilt and to be in the Green Hills area doing the signing is phenomenal as a writer. And a lot of people, when I come home, they don't know the area or they don't know. They may have heard of it, but they don't really know the significance of it. So sometimes I just be like, you know, okay, check it out if you can.
Right. Vanderbilt's a big college area, so there's a lot of influential
was,
people around.
Now, that experience
Right.
there, the signing at Vanderbilt was amazing. For one, as a writer, to be on the stage at Barnes & Noble's Vanderbilt was like, okay, I'm here. I've arrived, you know?
Right.
When people talk about what is success to them, it's not always about the money. It's not always about being able to want to take care of all your friends and those type of things, which of course you want to do eventually. But for me, it's the legacy. It's all about the legacy. Devin O'Day said something on Grand Ole Opry Radio. I was like, I hadn't made a lot of money 15 years doing this. And she was like, I just got to stop you right there. She was like, not yet, because you ain't cared about it, and that's why you don't get it.
Right.
I'm like, well, it's been 15 years. I sure wish it hurried up. But to see the lives change, the impact, just to see how people gravitate to it, it's success in itself. And I think a lot of people nowadays, especially the way the world is, success is defined by how much money you make,
Right.
What you drive, or what kind of home you have, but what kind of person are you? Are you happy with yourself? Are you happy with where you are in life? And to always strive to want more.
Right.
You're never too old to want more, and that's one of my jobs. So if you sit and you talk to me, I'm gonna motivate you to want to do something because you motivate me to want to keep going. So that's part of my movement.
Right. So what has been something now that you're home that you want to do while you're here? Just rest? Or?
I'm only here for a day, and then
Are
I'm
you?
right back out tomorrow. So
Where are you headed to tomorrow?
I'm back to Nashville.
Is that where you live now?
That's where I live now.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. I was only home for a few months starting a book tour, just to kind of get people on board. It was my first book deal, and I wanted people to, see what I've accomplished over the years and support.
Right.
We're known, especially in smaller towns, for not supporting each other. Unless you clicked up with the right people and that type of thing. Well, my life, I've not had a lot of clicks. I've had book signings in the beginning when not one person came. I've done book signings when none of my friends came. I've seen it all from the 15 years of even being hustled, out of a book deal once before, and I'm still going. And I won't let none of those things stop me from feeling successful.
Right.
And a friend told me at a sign, and he was like, you ever thought that maybe God got the right people there? Even if it's two, or even if it's three, or even if it's one, that's the right one person. person.
Right.
That changed my whole perspective on a lot of things at that particular moment. Because, of course, you're going to naturally be upset.
Right.
You want everybody to support, but that's just not the way the world works. And I know that regardless of whatever happens in my life, I got to keep moving. So you either get on or miss the bus, you know?
Right.
So I'm just glad to see that hometown has showed so much love, from the New Albany Gazette to TV 99, to my family, friends, old church family. My hometown has been there for it.
What's your church family? Would you go to church?
I grew up going to St. Mary.
Yeah.
That's my church grew up there. My family went there. And still go back and visit from time to time when I come home. So still see some good church folks. And it's just always good to come home, even if it's for a day, you know.
Whenever I have anyone on, I always ask them, what is one thing what is a message that you would want to get across to someone?
My thing is follow your heart. Like, so many people told me, especially in the beginning, you dress fine. Look where it's got me today. Just a quick side note on people are always watching.
Right.
People are always first impression. And they don't realize how important that is. Well, we got ready to open Nordstrom's. Just a quick side story. This was
Please
amazing.
tell, yes.
The Nordstrom family was there. It's the first time a country boy from Mississippi. I'd never seen billionaires before.
Right.
And to see it, and they looked like billionaires. They looked perfect. I said, how is that possible? And we got ready to cut the ribbon, and you had all the news people there, and all these people there from all over the country to open up this store. Never seen anything like it. And Miss Nordstrom points at me and tells me to come here. So I'm like, no, ain't no way she talking to me. It just, I'm not going to do that to myself today.
Right.
And everybody's looking, and she points me in, and I'm like, no. So she comes over there and told me, don't cut the ribbon yet. She comes over and whispers in my ear, you're the best dressed guy I've seen. And if I want to buy something from my new store, I want to buy it from you. And from that moment, I knew my mama had done a great job.
Yes, she did.
I did. Like, that's Miss Nordstrom's. Like, out of all the people who would compliment. Mm-hmm. And just some of the compliments that I've gotten over the years about how you carry yourself and how you look. Step outside the box. You don't have to follow everyone. You can be your own individual self. If you have a dream to fly kites, I don't care what it is.
Right.
If you have passion to do something, let that love and that passion drive you, and success will come. And that's my message to people. Like, find your purpose. Because that's the most important thing out of life. Because if you find your purpose, it gives you something to live for. If you don't have something to live for, you just waste your years away. And then you be old one day and I wish I should have, could have. And I just don't ever want that to be me.
Right.
So just be your own self and follow your heart.
Thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, no problem.
I have enjoyed so much talking with you.
Yes, this has been
And I know our viewers are going to enjoy it.
I hope so. I hope so.
And thank you for joining us here today on TV 99 North Mississippi from the Heart. And we look forward to having you with us next time.